not been to Minnesota in probably 20 years.
Bring gas. Welcome to Flagrant Howls, a Minnesota Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.
And welcome to Target Center live on the Score North YouTube channel here. Phil Mackey, the sports dad, Judd Zulgad, our often mustached executive producer, Declan Goff, where the Timberwolves lost a grind and a battle of a Game 4 tonight to the Oklahoma City Thunder, 128 to 126. Absolute haymakers, like literally in some cases. One of the most physical games we've seen in these playoffs here so far. So we'll give you our thoughts, our full thoughts on the game, on where the Wolves are at here, down 3-1. But first, a shout-out to Brixworth, who's been fueling us, hydrating us, feeding us throughout this Timberwolves season here. We appreciate Brixworth's partnership on Flagrant Howls. Just a couple blocks away from Target Center, it is the place in the North Loop to gather with your Wolves fan friends, either for home games before the games as you walk over, or for road games so you can belly up. And these Wolves playoff games are always on the TVs. The signature Nas Reed Hazy IPA, which we enjoyed several of those as a group at the Flagrant Howls Unplugged event at Brixworth last week. So check them out if you haven't already, or go back. Some of that awesome deep dish or Detroit-style pizza, the Dry Rub Wings Brixworth in the North Loop. Gentlemen, how are we feeling after that one? Holy cow, what a basketball game. Wolves come up 2 points short at home here.
Well, first of all, I'm exhausted. I didn't plan. I'm exhausted. But second of all, yeah, I thought, like, there's a ton to talk about, ton of storylines, good performances, poor performances. But let's just start with this game. Like, this is the first game. This is Game 4. This is the first game, and I was waiting for this game, that we got this type of battle, where it is close the entire time. OKC always leads, and at times it felt like they led by a lot, but they never really did. The Wolves punch back. OKC punches back. You know, games 1 and 2, if you're a Wolves fan, are especially disappointing in both cases because of the third quarter. If you're an OKC fan, Game 3 sucked because you get drilled by 42 points. This is a playoff basketball game, boys. Like, this is what the rivalry should be. So just... I realize there's a lot to get to in this game, but I just wanted to start off by saying this is why I absolutely love playoff sports, because it was just two boxers going at it constantly, and it to me was the first game where it's like, okay, these two teams are pretty damn even, equal footing, and they're both going to exchange punches.
Yeah. Dex, so Judd and I are in the arena here for just obviously you can see it on the YouTube channel for the audio audience. We're sitting here at Target Center, which is emptying out with sad fans right now. Dex, you were at home, so we didn't catch like the vibe on TV, but what was your biggest takeaway just kind of watching from where you sat?
Two things. Number one, for an awesome game to end like that, I hate that. I hate that it's fouling up 3 and 2 free throws and back and forth. I know there's probably not like a simple solution to fix that maybe, but I don't like that a great game ends like that over the last 30 seconds of just fouling and all that stuff. I don't like that. I want something to be resolved there.
It's funny, Judd leaned over. We were sitting next to Jace Frederick and Dane Mizutani from TwinCities.com, the Pioneer Press during the game. And Judd leaned over to Jace and I and said the exact same thing you just said, which is there's got to be like something you can do, but there really isn't because the rules are the rules. It's just kind of hey, credit to Oklahoma City. A lot of teams don't believe in, a lot of coaches don't believe in fouling up 3, but tonight was a textbook example of why you do it.
Yeah.
Super interesting that SGA decides to kind of throw that ball out of bounds at the end instead of just hang on to it. Like, I guess he didn't want to get tied up or throw it straight up in the air would have been another option, but he throws it in the crowd.
So yeah, he threw it in the crowd, and then that dude catches it, the fan catches the ball. So Doris was trying to figure out, because if you look at the replay when that fan catches the ball, it says about 0.6 seconds, but Doris was trying to make the point that, like, if that guy's not there, like, how quickly do you whistle that ball out? So is it 0.6 or is it 0.1? So that was a thing on the TV broadcast when Shea threw that ball on that last offensive board.
Because so this is good intel, because we never got an in-house replay. They never, like they do for reviews, when you get to see in the arena when they're reviewing a play, every angle that they're showing and the clock and everything. They never did that, at least for the in-house feed. But as I understand it, that fan, much like if you're a fan at a baseball game, he wasn't reaching over the sideline. He stood up from his seat, and he might have been a step closer to the court, right, if you watch it back. But that's what we are wondering is 0.3, without a full review frame by frame of how much time should actually be on the clock, is a really just kind of, it feels like a very whimsical decision in such an important game. And it looked, and by the way, Jace rewound, he had the feed next to us, and he thought it was 0.4 or 0.5.
Yeah.
Well, go ask Derek Fisher from 20 years ago, Lakers versus Spurs, Western Conference playoffs. 0.4 you can catch and shoot legally. Under 0.4 you can't. Now, obviously, unlikely that you're going to catch and shoot, get the shot off, and make a game-winning shot or a game-tying shot. But I was a little surprised at just how haphazardly they treated the timing of, like, how much time should be on the clock at the end. I do want to say, just before we get too far down the road of officiating, my biggest takeaway wasn't officiating. It wasn't the foul merchant stuff from SGA, although he had a legendary run in the middle of the second quarter, absolutely baiting and tricking the refs into like 3 consecutive fouls. So bravo, legendary Hall of Fame foul merchant performance. Also just a legendary Hall of Fame overall performance from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He was lights out when they needed him. My biggest takeaway, Judd, and I'll throw it back to you, is Oklahoma City is overall, and was tonight, just more finely tuned in the most important areas. When they needed the shot 15 different times tonight, they got the shot. When they needed the extra possession, the offensive rebound, when they needed to poke a pass away with a hand in a passing lane, like they're just a little more, or a lot more in some cases, finely tuned than a really, really good Timberwolves team. And that's the main reason why the Wolves are down 3-1 in this series.
It's also incredible that this was a 2-point game if you look at a couple of things from the Timberwolves' perspective. One is the Timberwolves turned the ball over tonight 23 times again. Brutal. 23 times. That's absolutely inexcusable. And also, Ant had 4 points at halftime, finished with, 16 points, and Julius was back to being a non-factor. 1 of 7 from the field, 0 of 3 from 3, 5 points. If I had told you guys at the beginning of the night that those things were going to be all true, Ant was not going to be much of a factor, Julius was going to be absolutely a non-factor, and the Timberwolves were going to have 20-plus turnovers, what would you have told me your guess at the final score was? Because I'm guessing you wouldn't say, the Wolves might lose by 2.
Yeah. I mean, it probably should have been a blowout with all those factors. Credit to Nickeil Alexander-Walker for having one of his best games ever as a Timberwolf. Credit to Dante DiVincenzo, who after a really rough first 5 or 6 minute rotation came back in and started knocking down a bunch of threes. It was his best offensive performance of the playoffs so far. And also credit to Jaden McDaniels for just finding ways on both ends of the court. These guys who have been filling the gaps so well throughout the regular season, and a couple of these guys who've been missing in the postseason, all of them showed up. Naz Reid knocking down some big shots and grabbing some rebounds. And it's like, to your point, it's kind of crazy that it was Julius Randle and Anthony Edwards who, I don't want to say dropped the ball necessarily, because Oklahoma City, this game, the officials let these guys play tonight. And that wound up being really problematic for Julius Randle, especially because early in that first quarter, you and I were looking at each other like, wow, they are bodying. Like, Julius Randle is trying to play bully ball. And Dort, and then Alex Caruso eventually, and the other bigs, the Hartenstein, are just giving it back to him. Finch at one point pulled one of the officials aside and was like, are you going to allow this? I'd rather the games be officiated like this than the whistle fest that we get sometimes. Yeah. Let these guys decide it, but that turned out to be really problematic for, they brought the bully to Julius tonight, and it made him really uncomfortable. And then with Anthony Edwards, some of it was physical play, but Oklahoma City devoted 2.5 hours to double teaming him and or blitzing him off every single pick and roll. And, I think he made a lot of the right passes. Early on, he just kind of deferred, like in the first half. And then clearly coming out for the second half, the conversation was, dude, just get into it right away before the double team comes. And it opened up some offense. But, this is what's going to happen. When you aspire to be a championship team and you aspire to be one of the top 3 players in the NBA, you're going to get this type of defense thrown at you. And at the end of the day, like, Anthony Edwards is going to have to figure out in the highest leverage game of the year how to unlock himself for more than 13 field goal attempts and more than 16 points and more than 4 points, halfway through the game.
In the fourth quarter today, because when they were just going back and forth, I went back and looked at this. Like, how many shots did the Thunder miss? And I logged this. This is also on ESPN. I didn't actually log this because I don't have the mental capacity to do that. Thankfully, play-by-play on ESPN.com has that for me. But at the 8:38 mark in the fourth quarter, through under a minute to go, the Thunder missed 3 shots. They hit everything.
It's crazy.
The Wolves were coming, and so were the Thunder. They couldn't get a stop to save their life. The Thunder was hitting everything into the basket. That's nuts, man. If the Wolves were going to shoot this productively, you'd think, okay, to Judd's point, if you give those raw numbers, what's the kind of final score and where are you at? The Thunder literally missed 3 shots over a 9-minute span in the fourth quarter, which is insane. Everyone was hitting everything, and then at that point, I don't think you could stop them.
And if I'm not mistaken, in that time period, Shea missed 2, which were sort of his specialty shots, and he missed them. So, this was a game where it felt like the Thunder, every time that the Wolves got close, and at one point in the third quarter they tied the game, but every time that the Wolves got close, the Thunder came back and hit a shot or hit 2 shots. But yeah, the Ant thing is intriguing because it's my opinion that in games 1 and 2, the national media just was like, Ant's shrinking. The Ant-Man's not doing this and that. It's like he's making
the Can't-Man.
The Can't-Man. Yeah. Well, skip. That's fine. Skip. But that tonight it was disappointing because this is the game where no matter what you do have to rise above it if you're going to be that guy. Because now you go back there, to OKC for Game 5, and it feels like the series, like the Wolves are, and they are in big trouble. Tonight's game, which was so close, was such a great chance, right? You go back 2-2. You're going to play a Game 6 here. So I'm disappointed more so in Ant from this game than I was from the first 2 games. But that being taken into account, there were some performances. Na's performance. Let's talk about that.
Nickeil was awesome, man. He bailed out. Think about how many times this thing got to 8 points, 9 points, maybe 11 points, and then boom, Nickeil Alexander-Walker comes back with a big 3 or a drive to the basket. I just saw this too, just in terms of kind of the shock factor of how this game played out from StatMuse. The Timberwolves led this game in these categories tonight: rebounds, assists, points off turnovers, fast break points, points in the paint, second chance points, free throw attempts, free throw makes, field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, free throw percentage, and they lost because of turnovers and offensive rebounds in terms of process. Now, did I say second chance points? Yeah. The crazy thing is, now, I think 2 things can be true. One, the Wolves had more second chance points, but also the second chance points that the Thunder did get off their 19 offensive rebounds is what helped fill the math gap there. So 19 offensive rebounds allowed by the Timberwolves, and then the 23 turnovers, I believe Judd referenced. Yeah, 21 individual turnovers and then 2 team turnovers. So 23 plus 19, what's that? It's St. Cloud State math.
That is paying attention.
42.
23, 42. That's 42 possessions that either you're giving them an extra possession,
yes,
or you are giving Oklahoma City the ball without a shot attempt because you're turning the ball over. So that's how you lose a game in which you wind up shooting 51% from the field and 44% from 3. This is one of the best 3-point shooting games the Wolves have had the entire playoffs, and they lost at home.
Yep. And the last 2 games from three-point land, they've been fantastic. 50% in game 3, which was absolutely ridiculous. I will say this when it comes to the Thunder, though. Their stars, and in particular SGA, showed up. 40 points for SGA in this game. Jalen Williams, don't sleep on this one. He had 34 points, and I don't know how many he had, if there's such a thing as response points, but how many times did the Wolves get within, 3 or within 2, and Jalen went down and took these tough contested shots. And then the guy who I thought was a monster as well, Chet Holmgren, 21 points, 7 boards. He made 2 of 4 threes. He was all over the floor. He was spectacular. So, but yeah, like when you look at the production of SGA and Ant, I mean, if you're looking for reasons why the Wolves lost, again, there's your difference. SGA, he missed some shots, but the dude still had 40 points.
Let's have a little SGA Anthony Edwards discussion here, and let's put the free throw merchant stuff off to the side because, and we've been driving. It is a stain on his game, and I think it's kind of a black mark for the NBA too. That there's like 2 or 3 of these guys, and Jalen Brunson's one of them too. So you've got both these guys, still alive in the Final Four teams, and it's not just like leaning into the contact and kind of embellishing. It's trying to actively trick officials into seeing contact where there isn't. And so I do take issue with it, and it is a big part of his game. But even if you take that part of his game out, he was absolutely incredible whenever they needed him to be on offense tonight. Mid-range, just getting a bucket 12 different times, to your point, when the game got within 2 or 3 or 5 points. And Anthony Edwards, on the other hand, was just kind of lost for periods. I think what drives me a little nuts is making broad assumptions about a 23-year-old player who is climbing up the NBA pecking order. If Ant was 27 or 28, or if it was a James Harden situation or a Joel Embiid situation where it's like, all right, they're close to 30 or over 30, and they have like a 10-year track record of kind of wilting in the second round of the playoffs or coming up short in the biggest moments. I think then you can stamp a guy's career. Anthony Edwards is like 3 years away from his peak, whatever that's going to look like. So I know there's a lot of people that are going to label him as a guy that comes up short, the can't man, because of what happened in the Western Conference Finals last year against the Mavericks, where his performance diminished, and what happened tonight in the most important game of the season at home. What are your thoughts, starting with Judd, just the referendum on Anthony Edwards through the first 4 games of these Western Conference Finals, with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the MVP of the NBA,
right,
lurking as a barometer?
Nationally, I'm not surprised because he is their guy. That being said, I do think it's a little bit unfair to your point, but I will say I'm disappointed too because this was the type of game where if he could find a way, you win. So I'm sort of torn here. I was much more defending of Ant in the first 2 games because you wilted. Your whole team did, right? And in both of those cases, on the road, did Ant play great all the time? Absolutely not. But I also thought that there were problems far beyond Ant in those games. He found the right guy a lot. He did the right thing. I'd be lying if I said, though, I'm not a little bit disappointed that in an absolutely crucial game for here at home that you didn't get more. Does that mean I think he's a bust? Absolutely not. I still like him a lot. I think he's fantastic. Did I expect more of a spark from him? Yes, I did. So I'm a little bit torn here, certainly not bailing, but also I think this is the first game of this series in which I would say that I was disappointed by what he didn't do, because I'm not going to blame him for every single game where things don't go right.
Yeah, I mean, look at Shai tonight. So, yeah, he gets to the line, goes to the line 14 times, and hits 12 of 14 free throws, but puts up 40 points. Shot the ball 30 times, was 13 of 30 tonight, 10 assists, 9 boards, just super active. And had 2 points, had 1 field goal attempt at the end of the first quarter tonight. And look, the Wolves were hitting shots, so it wasn't even like, oh, Like Anthony Edwards needs to get engaged ASAP here. The Wolves, they need Ant right now. The team was hitting their shots. They hit like almost 60% of their shots in the first quarter. But he has had the clear advantage SGA has in terms of who has shown up for their team more. And I know the Thunder are up 3-1 right now. And yes, the free throw merchant is part of his game and getting to the line and whatnot. But I mean, Anthony Edwards has been a passenger. I mean, we talk about Batman and Robins on teams at times right now. I mean, I would even say Ant's been a Robin. He's been basically just a punching bag through the first 4 games for the most part. SGA's been the one that showed up the most, and the Thunder too, just as a team as a whole, as we saw in the fourth quarter tonight. When they get their dudes involved and when they're hitting their shots, they're tough to stop, man. So I've been pretty disappointed in Anthony Edwards, I think, through the first 4 games of this Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, I mean, we did that Western Conference Finals preview show last week, and we went through just some of the key elements of the series and the things that Oklahoma City is really good at, or the things that the Timberwolves, like the levers they have to pull if they are going to win the series. Like, basically, what are the non-negotiables for this series? And you could argue that the Wolves violated all of them tonight, or most of them. One being the turnovers, that this is the number 1 turnover forcing team in the NBA, Oklahoma City. And, game 3, the Wolves dominate. They turn the ball over 10 times, so you're not given the extra possessions. Tonight, it was 2.5 times that many. But one of the non-negotiables that we talked about was Anthony Edwards probably has to unlock a level to his game, even though playoff Ant has been a thing, and his playoff performance pretty much across the board, scoring average, efficiency in his career has gone up from the regular season, that it probably has to go to an even higher level if they are going to beat this Oklahoma City team. And it hasn't, save for 1 game. I think he was a monster in game 3, but you don't just get to be a monster in 1 game and kind of fade into the background, still down 2-1, trying to even the series. You have to be, if the bar is best player in the NBA or player that can lead a team to a championship, we've seen what that looks like throughout the history of the NBA. We've seen what LeBron James playoff runs look like, Kobe Bryant playoff runs, Michael Jordan. People want to compare Ant to Michael Jordan. And not that those guys also didn't have clunkers. I mean, Kobe had one of the most notorious clunkers ever in a Game 7 that they won to win the NBA Finals because his teammates kind of bailed him out. But, yeah, Ant is not rising to that level. His performance has taken a step back from even regular season Ant in some of the biggest games. It's fair to say. It's a fair criticism. And also, I want to leave room for a 23-year-old to turn 25 and turn 26 and at least exhibit some level of patience too. So I think he deserves criticism. I also think he's not a fully formed product, and 2 years in a row now, he's watching fully formed products in Luka Doncic last year and SGA this year, what that really looks like at the top of the league.
That's the disappointing thing to me, is that you really hoped that after all he talked following the Western Conference Finals loss to the Mavericks last year, right, that he was going to come back here and sort of take control a bit more, which he's not done. And so that's the disappointing thing, is that I don't think that he has been able to follow through on, like, hey, I saw what Doncic did, I saw what Kyrie did, and now that's me. We haven't seen that. I do think there's another conversation here, and this is probably one to put a pin in, circle back when the season is done, and it's this. This team needs a point guard who can play more. Like, they need someone who can handle the ball consistently. They do not. Like, Conley can, but he can't play a lot, which I know why. So if that's the case, I feel like that has been a really missing thing here. Like, OKC specializes in turning you over. We all know that. And it's almost, in watching the key games, at least in the series, it's almost like the Wolves can't. It's like, what can we do? We don't have that guy. I think that guy would improve everyone on the floor, and that person is just absent right now.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Conley is what's kind of crazy is the Wolves are awesome. The Wolves are one of the 4 to 5 best teams in the NBA now that the body of work of the season has played out, right? but they have one reliable dribbler, like truly high-end reliable ball handler. Mike Conley, you nailed it. Anthony Edwards, I think if there's one thing for him, every year he's gone to the lab and he's added something, a three-point shot. A couple of years ago it was that mid-range game. So he definitely irons things out every summer that need to be ironed out. Getting a better handle is definitely on that short list for him. But, man, like when you see Alex Caruso guarding Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who's been thrust into a point guard role at times because of the lack of ball handlers. Now, Rob Dillingham could be an interesting solution to this because Rob Dillingham is a really good ball handler. He is a point guard. He's vastly undersized. And obviously Chris Finch does not trust him to be anywhere near a playoff rotation right now. So is he going to go from basically 3 rungs down the bench in terms of someone that you would call on to play in a playoff game to being a guy that plays 30 minutes a game for a team that wants to get back to the last week in May in the playoffs? There's going to have to be a big leap there. Or is there? I mean, there's a bunch of conversations here when and if the series actually ends and the Wolves are eliminated about what they could do. But maybe there's another blockbuster Tim Connolly move that helps some of these things. Who knows? We'll have to see. But, yeah, like when of all the things you could digest in the series, number one pickpocket, turnover-forcing team, physical, Alex Caruso, all these guys, right, versus a team with very shaky ball handling. And tonight was kind of a perfect storm of those ingredients with the 23 turnovers.
Yeah, and Caruso's great there. I mean, Dort is unbelievable. Yeah. That guy brings it every single time. So, yeah, I just think that's one thing that I saw tonight. And the problem is because of the Wolves' construction and how much Conley does or does not play, there's a real issue with what you do to combat that. And it feels like in game 1 for sure, and tonight, the Wolves didn't have that next switch to flip. And if you don't have that, I guess the question becomes, I mean, this is the playoffs. OKC is going to play like this. They're great. They're dirty, not as in a dirty team, but they're dirty as far grimy. As they muck it up. They go in the corners, to use a hockey term. And the Wolves don't really have a guy who can just sort of calm them down, outside of Conley, calm them down and get things set. So it feels rushed at times too. But this was, I mean, I'll go back to saying, as disappointing as the loss might have been, my biggest takeaway was this was fun to watch. I know the Wolves lost, but this was a really fun, competitive basketball game.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it was. I know fans oftentimes don't want to hear that. It was just like your team lost a heartbreaker, and now the season's on the brink, and we're sitting here saying this game was crazy. It was super fun. It was. The atmosphere was wild. There's a couple other things we haven't even touched on yet too that we should. Like Terrence Shannon Jr. played more effective minutes tonight. Yeah. I also have a question for you guys, sort of just about. What are the chances that they could claw their way back and force a Game 7 and then see what happens in Oklahoma City in a few days? But let's shout out our friends at Neos Elite Performance here, Judd, led by Eric Sugarman, former Vikings head athletic trainer for a number of years. Yes, and Sugar is doing a great work here. And if you are an athlete and you used to play, let's say, hoops, let's say you loved to golf, and now you're sore and your knees hurt and your back hurts, and you're like, you know what, I'm just done. Oh, no. Sports Dad here to tell you the experts at Neos Elite Performance are going to help you get back on the course, on the court. They're cutting-edge regenerative medicine and cellular IV therapies designed to get you going again without invasive procedures. It's white glove service, which means they come to you. No trip to the doctors, no trip to the hospital. They just get you back. No surgery, no downtime, just results. If you talk to them, reference our flagship show, Purple Daily, and get $500 off a cellular IV therapy treatment. Schedule it now at neoselite.com, Neos Elite.com. Eric and his team will get you back to doing what you love. Also, Stoked is powering these post-game episodes of Flagrant Howls, Judd. Barbecue season is here, folks. Barbecue season is upon us, and that means it's time to get your Stoked barbecue pellets, a company based right here and operated here in our great state. Stoked has 50-count fire starter buckets, 4-count fire starter bags. Also, their barbecue caddy is fantastic. Their solid oak
firewood, perfect for your tabletop stove. Easy to use 5-inch pieces will burn for 3+ hours. You can find all of the Stoked products at Fratelloni Hardware and Garden Stores, or by going to stokedbbq.com to find where else they are sold. Yes, the Wolves, as I just saw in that comment, might have been barbecued tonight, but it's a perfect time of year for you to barbecue as well, and Stoked wants to help you get your game in motion.
Terrence Shannon Jr.'s game, or TJ Shannon as they call him here. So how does that get derived? Is it Terrence Jr. that they call him Terrence Jr. and then that kind of morphs into a TJ situation, and now it's TJ Shannon. I think
this is why you just don't do juniors. Okay, don't do juniors.
A lot of guys do that now.
I know.
Well, heck, I saw one. The Royals had a pitcher this weekend who's like the 4th.
Yeah.
And the 4th is on back of his jersey.
Also, tax season, it gets really confusing too. I mean, you got potential problems there with numerous people with the same names. I don't just don't do juniors. I'm out.
You're saying don't name your kid after yourself, or just do
both.
it and don't. Okay. Yeah.
Both. Just come up with another name. That's all I'm saying.
That's what Terrence did. He's TJ Shannon.
I guess.
So
I guess.
doing it the right way.
For me, if I were to have a future son, would it be Julius Randle Goff or would it be Terrence Shannon Goff? That's what I tweeted out tonight. Which one is it going to be? Because
tonight it would not be Julius Randle.
It would not be Julius Randle Goff. I can tell you, J.R. Goff would not be sounding too well right now.
Nickeil Alexander-Walker Goff with 2 hyphens between.
I mean, how many hyphens would that name have? That's a great question.
I have a hot take. All right, I know Dante DiVincenzo hit a bunch of threes tonight, and those were some big shots, or whatever. But the net impact of Dante DiVincenzo in these playoffs has been minus. Defensively, he got put in the blender a few times early against Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Some bad turnovers in that first half too. Again, this was one of the most effective games, probably the most effective game he's played in the playoffs. So I do give him credit for that. But the Wolves were still a -8 when DiVincenzo was on the court tonight, which is the worst plus-minus of any of the Wolves players. And in 8 minutes, again, they broke even in the TJ Shannon minutes, but he's a ball of energy. He provides more resistance defensively. He finishes strong. He gets to the free throw line. So I guess my take is 28 minutes of DiVincenzo, knowing what we know over the last 30 days, he hasn't been playing well. He hasn't been a positive impact on the court, plus minus net rating, whatever you want to look at. I need more than 8 minutes from TJ Shannon in this series. I need more than 8 minutes. And if you want to borrow some from DiVincenzo, borrow some from somebody else, that's fine. But 8 minutes is not enough for that dude.
What was the split of playing time on Saturday? Because I think Dante played 16 minutes in that game, if I'm not mistaken. It certainly was not 28. And, it feels like when I watch Terrence Shannon Jr. play, there's a few things I like. One is he doesn't seem to get flustered. So and he's what, 24? I think he's got like 6 months on Ant. So he doesn't get flustered, which I really like. He can handle the ball. I'm not saying he's a whirling dervish with it, but he can certainly do it competently. And he has a lot of different ways that he can beat you. So I think the more I've watched him these past 2 games, especially in high leverage, very important games, I think one of the big marks against Finch is, why wasn't this guy playing? Like there's no reason that I can see. Like the Dillingham thing I get. As point guard, it's a very difficult position. He is, I think, he's 21 or something like that. So, but Terrence Shannon Jr., to me, when I see him play, I'm sorry, but I think he could have given you really quality playing time. And I think we talked about this at the time, back in like December.
Agreed. The crazy thing is, Oklahoma City lost 14 games all season, a 6-month NBA season. They lost 14 games. It was one of the great regular seasons in the history of the NBA. 2 of those 14 losses were to the Timberwolves. And in those 2 games, Terrence Shannon Jr. was a driving force for why the Wolves won. The historic comeback where they were down by like 24 points, he was driving that in the second half in the fourth quarter. So, again, is Anthony Edwards needs to step up. Julius Randle can't have 2 huge clunkers. So if you're going through, maybe tomorrow we can do a pie chart or something, but a pie chart of reasons why they're down 3 games to 1 in the series. Maybe Chef Judd can cook something up for us. But But Terrence Shannon Jr. not getting into a game until game 3 and then still playing only 8 minutes. Eye test, the evidence against OKC earlier in the year. It is like Finch takes a lot of strays for a guy that's been just thrust into these crazy roster blowing up trades. Like, hey, all right, figure this out with Gobert, figure this out with Julius Randle. And then everyone, including us, hammers him for like the first 2 or 3 months as they're trying to gel things together. I do think the lack of a consistent ninth man and the lack of Terrence Shannon Jr., now that we've seen him, he's not, like you say, he's not 20 years old like a Dillingham. He's a man. He's not 40, but he's 24 years old. So I do think that's a legit criticism of Chris Finch.
Yeah, and he is, Finch, it feels like every semi to important game that the Wolves lose, the tide turns, and Finch is just a complete moron and he can't coach, and that's, in my opinion, ridiculous. But that being said, the thing with Shannon is what he brought you on Saturday was fantastic, and I know that they won by 42 points, but nonetheless, he provides a huge spark. And I did see a comment here, and I do think that he got banged up. He hurt his left. He hurt his, or he didn't hurt. He did something. He tweaked his left shoulder because he was pointing to it on the bench when talking to Mike Conley. But he came back in, and I don't think that's why he didn't play more. So, and that didn't win or lose tonight's game, but I think it's a definite talking point, and I think Finch is one of his big things, and this is a basketball coach. I mean, hell, it's a coach thing, right? Is I got my veterans. I play my veterans. It's like, okay, that's cool. That's great. But don't make me take away a veteran so that you have to play a kid. And Phil, we talked about this. Like, I feel like this might be curtains for Nas here, based on the fact that if you're Tim Conley, first of all, you drafted Terrence Shannon Jr. in the first round. Second of all, I feel like there has to be a way to force Finch to play him, and I think if you do, he'll be damn good. So that's a real interesting one, and I'm curious to see how both the president of basketball operations and the coach end up handling it.
Yeah. No, there's a bunch of really interesting conversations about roster construction and what to do with some of these contracts that are coming up here in the next month. But in terms of this series, last question for you guys here. I'll throw it to Dex first for this one. Is the series over in 5? Or do you see them, when against the Nuggets, they got up 2-0, then the Nuggets rattle off the 3 straight wins, and it was like, there's no way the Wolves can bring this thing back. A little bit different because that turned into a 3-2 situation. This is 3-1. Is this thing cooked in 5, or do the Wolves fight back and get it to a 6th and or 7th game?
It feels cooked. It feels cooked to me. They had the epic performance in Game 3, which is awesome. And I think there was even the stat of no playoff team has ever lost a game by 40 points or more and come back to win their series. So, that is a thing that the Thunder can overcome. They can become the first team to have lost a game by 40 points and still win the series.
It'd be wild if they won this thing in 5 games and the only loss was a historic 40-point blowout loss.
Dex, I think the stat was a championship.
Oh, was that what it was?
Yeah. I think it's a team that has had its shorts blown off in a playoff series by that much, has never come back to win a championship.
Yeah, so every team since 1983 to lose a playoff game by 40-plus points got eliminated in the same series. That's what it is.
Okay.
That's what the stat is from, I saw NBA Reddit.
So Dex was right, and the sports
I was wrong.
I
thought
okay.
I saw that. I thought I saw that.
Usually you are correcting my incorrect projections.
Great conversation,
in a way,
sports son.
You're usually right. I feel like it's cooked unless we get just a Hulk performance from Anthony Edwards. That's where I'm at. If he shows up and drops 45, 50 points, that's what it's going to have to take here. I don't. You've seen the bench have bad games. You've seen the bench tonight show up in a big way. They had an awesome performance tonight. Even though Dante has been mostly a negative, he was great tonight. Unless they get a hulked up performance from Anthony Edwards, I think this thing is wrapped up by Wednesday evening. Yes.
Judd? Oh, you want me to go first?
Unmuting.
Okay.
No.
I love it. Judd's got Judd's got another. There's another show happening right.
So
to the
I'm
right of Judd here.
Yeah, I am trying to keep it as
It's literally an empty arena,
quiet as possible, and I got a guy sitting right by me. Yeah, it's incredible. Anyway, I digress. I said the series is going to go 7, and so I'm going to say that the Wolves do win. Do I have a ton of confidence? No. Do I think the Timberwolves are a better team than games 1 and 2? Absolutely. Do I think that OKC absolutely sucks because in game 3 they did? No. I thought tonight you cut the turnovers down, like you changed this or that, and we're talking a Wolves win. So no, it might not go 7, but I am going to say that the Timberwolves are going to find a way to win game 5 and get it back here. In part, Phil, because of what you just talked about, which is I always harken back now to last year when it seemed like the script was written, right? Like, they're done against, they won the first 2 games in Denver. It's like they're going to win this series in 5. And then they lost. And then it's like, okay, they are absolutely dead. And then they're down by 20 in game 7. So I think the Wolves are going to find a way to win game 5 in OKC and get it back here. And then my prediction is TBD after that.
I feel people don't want to hear any talk of the fact that they could potentially fight back in the series. Hey, listen, people called us crazy, or maybe it was just me, after the 3 straight losses against Denver last year, and I said, yeah, I think they could. This is how the playoffs work, man. It's like things go back and forth. A lot of teams fall down 2-0 and then fight back. And so I said Wolves win in 7 at the beginning of this series. I still think there's a chance it gets to 7 games. The Wolves have played these guys extremely tough the last 2. Now playing at home is a different animal than you're going back to Oklahoma City. So you're gonna, like to Dex's point, you're gonna have to have a 0 dark ant game. One of the biggest differences too between these two teams. Well, I'll start with a similarity. When both teams are playing at their absolute peak, both of them are championship caliber when they're playing at their peak. The difference is Oklahoma City can tap into their 97th percentile performance much more regularly and consistently, including their superstar, SGA, compared to Ant, than the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves have a much wider variance of what they're capable of putting out over the course of any game. But if the Wolves tap into the same thing they tapped into at home in Game 3, we've seen, again, last year against Denver, defending champions, ambush them twice to start that series in the Pepsi Center, beat them again in Game 7. They won 3 games on the road, if I recall correctly, in that series. So, we've seen this team go into crazy hostile situations against really good high-end teams in the playoffs and win a game. And then it comes back to Target Center. And now you've got the energy again and everything you fed off of the last 2 games. So, if at this point, if I'm repicking a series, I'm not picking the Timberwolves, but I do think there is a path to getting it to a Game 7, and then anything can happen. So, positive Phil, come at me with your
I'm getting hammered.
With your negative comments.
I said it's 1 game, folks. I said they might. I think that they can win Game 5. They won by 42 points in Game 3. Come on.
I think people just want
I'm not saying they're going to win the
after a
series.
game like that, there are some people that just want us to come on here and call Anthony Edwards a bust, to say that he's a failure, to say that they're going to get beat by 30 points in Game 5. I don't think any of those things are going to happen. So, sorry.
So I just saw a comment from Trevor, and it's a good point, and we'll elaborate on this when I do the pie chart tomorrow. The Julius Randle talker, he was brutal tonight. That's one. Yeah. That's you're right. He was awful, and he deserves heat. I've been speaking up for him for now, 2 months, because he's been great. But games, Game 2 and Game 4, he was awful. So,
and you know what helps when you talk about the superstar versus superstar performance, and why SGA rips off 40 and a near triple double, and Anthony Edwards scores 16 points or whatever, but you know what really helps? When SGA has a running mate in Jalen Williams, and by the way, Julius Randle has been this in many playoff games for Anthony Edwards, where he is the running mate, if not the primary scorer. But when Jalen Williams goes off for 34 points, is drawing attention, hitting all of these mid-range shots, again, pulling defenders away from SGA. And then also Chet Holmgren, Diet Wemby, 7-foot praying mantis
Great
pouring in
tonight.
21 points was awesome. Like it,
Mad props.
when other guys when your other star players in your starting lineup are getting into it like that at that level, it does kind of come back around and open some things up. So again, Anthony Edwards, if he were better, the Wolves would be in a different spot in the series. He hasn't been. He's been outplayed by SGA.
If they do go out, one thing that's going to be really intriguing is how many decisions are made off of this. Because it's like there's,
They made the cat decision off the Western Conference.
I know.
Because
Yeah.
if you were to have paused the playoffs after round 2 last year and say what happens this offseason, I still think there's a world in which they do trade Cat for salary cap reasons and apron. But I think they made that Cat decision off of the first 3 games of the Western Conference Finals last year.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying though. Like you've got Nas, you've got Julius. And then to circle back, you've got Terrence Shannon Jr. playing well now, so that and that's a cheap contract. So, yeah, I think that this series, if it does end in 5 or 6 games, I think it very well could determine some decisions that we probably a series ago thought, oh man, he's coming back for sure, or he's going to be signed. But it also on Julius impacts this question. If he does not have a good bounce back game in Game 5 and they go out, does he opt out then? I think he still does because the end of the season was so good. But it's at least a question then. A lot of intrigue to come.
Yep. No, there's a lot. I think, yeah, again, we'll have like a month of those conversations whenever it's time here, unless there's a miracle comeback down 3-1 against the best team in the NBA. Those conversations will start sooner than later. 128-126. The Wolves with an absolute just gut-busting loss here. And now they are on the brink for the first time in these playoffs. They are facing elimination. So, all right, boys. Well, by the way, for those of you that hung around here for this post-game show, Flagrant Howls, we appreciate you. Click that like button and the subscribe button on the Score North YouTube channel if you haven't already. Maybe you're just stumbling into us. Hello, I'm Phil. That's Judd, Dex, Kyle Tigey, a regular member of the Flagrant Howls cast, producer Ross with the Random Wolf of the Week. And if you're listening on demand on Apple or Spotify, a 5-star rating and a positive review can help us keep growing this podcast, this show, and this awesome community of Timberwolves fans. So any final parting words from you guys before we say goodbye from Target Center?
Just another chapter in gut-punching Minnesota losses. I saw this from the AP. This is from Josh Dubow of the Associated Press. The Timberwolves shot 51.2% and made 18 threes tonight. Before tonight, teams that shot 50% or better from the floor and made 18-plus threes were 55-0 in the playoffs.
Oh, my gosh.
It is now 55-1.
Yeah.
So, classic, another chapter in the book
Dude.
of Minnesota sports playoff losses.
These playoffs as a whole, not just the Wolves, have been wild. They have been wild, including that Knicks-Pacers game last night. Cat had 4 points in 3 quarters and then had like 20 in the final. But, I mean, there has been some – it's funny that a playoff that probably used to be the most predictable in all of sports as far as chalk has become this just bizarro, and bring it on. It's fantastic, but there is some wild stuff going on now in the NBA playoffs.
Yeah, it is crazy. The comebacks. I mean, some of it's too. Teams are shooting so many threes, and the variance that creates when you're down by 20 and you get hot from 3. Like Cat starts launching threes and connecting in that game last night, and he was awesome in the fourth quarter. So, all right, dudes, that's a wrap from Target Center here. We'll see. We'll be back post game in 2 nights here to see if the Wolves can extend this series. Maybe Scott Foster can come on down, the extender, to help the Timberwolves out.
Oh, he'll do Game 5 for sure, right?
Yeah, I think he has to get this thing to a Game 6.
Scott,
It's
silver.
You don't want a Pacers Oklahoma City Finals. Are we kidding? You want to have the worst TV ratings in the history of the NBA Finals? Let's make this thing interesting here.
The Knicks are now 2-1 though now. Like that flipped. I felt like in Game 3 as well. So there's still hope.
Yeah, well, there is. I think there's more hope for the Knicks.
Carl!
Switch. Ice. All right, boys. We'll say goodbye here from Target Center for the Sports Dad. I am Phil for Dex. This is a Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.